I'm learning my 6 and 7 languages. Y la gente quiere conocer mi secreto. Less than 3% of the population can speak more than 4 languages. Don't worry, learning multiple languages is not about studying a bunch of vocabulary lists and grammar rules. The journey can be way more fun. In fact, if you want to learn a language, it has to be more fun. Ich heiße Noelle, ich spreche Deutsch, Español, English, Francés and Netherlands. Actualmente estoy estudiando italiano e fon. Today I'm sharing 7 tips that help me learn new languages. I'll talk about how important it is to make mistakes and share some of my favorite tricks for staying motivated. If you have a question about language learning, drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Tip number 1. Make mistakes. If you're going to learn a language, you're going to make mistakes. It's unavoidable. A lot of people get anxious about this and avoid putting themselves out there. This is completely understandable, but it's the worst thing you can do if you want to learn a language fast. Studies show that one of the most effective ways of improving any skill is to put yourself in situations where you make errors and then learn from them. Pues una vez iba a pedir un cojín al padre de mi exnovio y en vez de cojín dije cojón y fue súper vergonzoso, súper gracioso y todo el mundo se rió de mí. It was very embarrassing. But guess what? Now I'll never forget the word cojín. Here's one other tip if you worry people are judging you when speaking your 2nd, 3rd or 4th language. Think about when non-native speakers try to talk to you in your language. Do you judge them or laugh behind their backs? Probably not. I know when people try to speak German to me, even total beginners, I'm always impressed by their effort to connect. It's natural to feel a little bit of anxiety when you're speaking a new language. But the quicker you can get over that fear and start making mistakes, the quicker you'll pick up your new language. Consejo número 2. Encuentra compañeros. Meeting someone who is learning the same language lets you share goals and keep each other accountable, without the apprehension of talking to a native speaker. It can also give you someone to measure yourself against. The sense of friendly competition can help you to stay on track. Classes are also a great place to meet peers in a low-pressure environment. You can either do it in person or online with Babbel Live. I teach German there every week, and I promise, no one will judge you. We're all learning together. Before choosing a class, think about my next tip. Tip number 3. Set goals. You should set goals right at the beginning of your language learning journey. Veux-tu commander un café pour ton prochain voyage à Paris? ¿Vas a hacer un brindis en la boda de un amigo en España? Knowing your goal will let you work backwards and plan accordingly. Maybe you'll practice speaking in certain scenarios more, or spend more time reading and writing, depending on what you want to achieve. Keep your goals realistic so you don't get frustrated along the way. You're not going to be reading Dostoevsky in Russian after a week. But you can be talking with someone in just a few days. And don't ignore the little landmarks that show your progress. If you go to a restaurant in another country and make it halfway through the meal before the waiter switches to English, that's not a failure. Celebrate your successes. Learning a language isn't easy, which brings up our next tip. Tip number 4. Make it fun. Developing a habit is important in learning, but if it gets boring, you will lose interest. For some people, reading books is a great way to learn. For others, it isn't. If you really want to learn a language, you have to find a way to make it fun for yourself. You want to develop the mindset of our next tip. Tip number 5. Don't cram, acquire. Binging vocabulary lists and verb conjugations might help you pass a test. But if you really want to retain information, you don't want to overdo it. Our brains can only take in so much new information each day from studying. 15 minutes 6 times a week is way more effective than 90 minutes every Saturday. Study a little bit, but use your interests to integrate the target language and culture into your daily life. If you like to cook, try a recipe in the language you're learning. Love music? Listen to bands in the target language. Throw a party where everyone has to speak the language you're focusing on. Watch your favorite show in Italian. Depending on your level, you can put the subtitles on or off. It's even okay to read about grammar, if you actually find it interesting. Tip number 6. Find your personal learning style. You might prefer morning classes when someone else wants evening. You might want to watch Friends to practice your English, while someone else would have more success with Sesame Street. Some people recommend writing down the 100 most common words in a language on your first day learning it. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite method. I prefer to learn in context, and I suggest the same thing to my students. For most people, it's more effective. But there are polyglots who swear by those word lists. It works for them, and that's what matters. Figure out what keeps you motivated, what helps you learn faster. It might not work for anyone else, but you only need to take responsibility for your own language learning. Tip number 7. Related to the languages you know. Draw parallels and make comparisons to the languages you know. If you can say summer in English, you can pick up what der Sommer means in German. If you already speak multiple languages, you definitely have an advantage here. Someone who speaks Spanish is going to notice overlaps with the vocabulary and grammar of Italian, for example. But even if you're learning your first foreign language, you can always use your native language as a resource. Once you notice that tengo frío means I'm cold, but it's literally more like I have coldness in English, it becomes easy to pick up the patterns for phrases like tengo sed, tengo sueño, and tengo prisa. Donc, quelle sera la prochaine langue que tu apprendras? Quizás el español? Oder doch Deutsch? Wat dacht je van Nederlands? Un secondo fancy? Anche l'italiano? Non sarebbe male. Whichever language you will be learning, have fun and enjoy it. Embrace your mistakes. And if you get intimidated at any point, remember, we all started as beginners. Subscribe down here if you want to see more videos about language learning. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions about these tips. Thanks for watching.